we recognize excellence, people who've gone above and beyond. And so we give a SNAP award on a quarterly basis where they get an amazing trophy and everyone competes really hard to get the trophy. Well, I said, today, we're not going to go through our core values like we normally do. When you give someone a SNAP, I want to know why you're giving them a SNAP and which core value they're exuding, because when you're recognizing them. So I don't know if I've gamified it. Maybe I have, because at the end of it, not only do they get a cash prize, but they get a trophy, and we create custom Zoom backgrounds for people based upon the number of awards that they've won, and they're on a shelf behind them. So we live it. And people ask me, well, what should I do? My answer to them is, based upon the core values that you should have on your desktop or on the wall behind you, what decision would you make based upon our core values? So we make it center and core to everything that we do in our business.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about a subject I love, talking about values and how they're used inside of our organizations to lead powerfully, to hire the right people, to guide people to make decisions. And specifically, we're going to talk about, why you want your employees to memorize your values. Today's guest is the CEO of Business Nitrogen. We're with David Asarnow, and he talks about, why his employees memorize values. What are the real reasoning behind it? How he got to the place where he understood his values and the fine tuning that it took to get there, and why it's so important to spend 30 minutes or more every week, every Monday, with employees, unpacking and celebrating and truly aligning to the values each week, week in, week out. Now, you may think this is overkill, but all of this is part of today's conversation about memorizing your values, but really it's about aligning to them. So if there's anything that you want to know about values, listen to this episode. We've got a few more on the podcast as well, because there's such an important piece. My job is to help you become the leader that your team deserves, to help you evolve from where you are today. I think that leadership is always evolving. It's learning, to let go of one level to grab that next level. And I can help you do that. If you want to know where you stand and what's getting in the way of your own leadership and the growth of your company specifically, then let's talk. Go to genehammett.com and schedule your call. Let's talk about leadership. Let's talk about your team. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about anything that's necessary to uncover so that you know how to prioritize and focus so that you can grow your company. Now, here's the interview with David. David, how are you?
I'm awesome, Gene. How are you?
Fantastic. We're going to have a great conversation about values. I think we're definitely aligned on this. Before we dive into that, David, tell me about Business Nitrogen.
We're a business growth and scaling company. We do everything from business and marketing strategy to funnels to helping write the sales scripts and coaching our clients on the execution of it. So that way we're literally helping them scale from strategy, marketing, and execution.
Well, marketing is one of the areas I think a lot of businesses struggle. And I'll be honest with you, I struggle with it too. I have a popular podcast, but those listening in don't necessarily turn into clients because we have thousands per day that are listening, but very few come in through that to be clients. This isn't about me and my marketing struggles. So I want to ask you a question. A lot of CEOs struggle with marketing. What do you wish CEOs understood about marketing in today's current market?
Well, there's two things. In today's current market, it's no different. You have to know who you serve, plain and simple, and make sure that, and I come with that, is serve, because you've got to add value. And many times when you want someone to move forward, they're not ready to move forward. So you've got to continue to add value to that person until they're ready. I remember when I was early on in my career, and I'd have people who worked alongside with me say, "You're working too hard. Why are you doing so much for this client? Or why you for this company? They're not doing business with us." And I said, eventually they will. The person that they're doing business with will screw up, and they're going to think of me. And that's how I grew a $45 million business over 5 years, by having that mentality.
Wow, I didn't realize your business was that big inside the
My last business, another business. It's not this current business. I've built two 8-figure companies before this.
All right. How many employees do you have now in Business Nitrogen?
We have 26.
Okay. And the reason why you're on the show is because we're an EO together, and I heard you say something in the room back in January. It stuck with me, and it's because we're now recording this into May. You are one of the few people in the room when someone says, how many people would say that their entire organization has memorized the values of the company? Why is it important, do you think, for people to memorize the values?
Well, I think that the question is, why do they know them versus important to? I lead the company based upon our core values. We created an acronym, Preach. I'm happy to go through it if you'd like. However, the most important thing is we start off every Monday with a team culture and values meeting. We go through and I ask everyone, what does P mean? And how have you used them in your life or in our business over the past week? So we have people raising their hands and they're telling stories how they had to have positive expectancy, or how they had to have results focus, or expecting excellence, or taking action, or collaborating, or having a ball, which were my core values. And so we do this every single week. Sometimes I mix it up. Like this morning on our meeting, I actually said we give snaps. We recognize excellence, people who've gone above and beyond. And so we give a snap award on a quarterly basis where they get an amazing trophy and everyone competes really hard to get the trophy. Well, I said today we're not going to go through our core values like we normally do. When you give someone a snap, I want to know why you're giving them the snap and which core value they're exuding, because when you're recognizing them. So I don't know if I've gamified it. Maybe I have, because at the end of it, not only do they get a cash prize, but they get a trophy. And we create custom Zoom backgrounds for people based upon the number of awards that they've won, and they're on a shelf behind them. So we live it. If people ask me, well, what should I do? My answer to them is, based upon the core values that you should have on your desktop or on the wall behind you, what decision would you make based upon our core values? So we make it center and core to everything that we do in our business.
This is the reason I wanted you to have on here, because there's so many people out there that think values are kind of a fluffy thing. They're not necessarily what makes us, deliver results to our clients. Our clients are so important to us. And I get this. My business, same thing. Clients are important, but values are how we connect together, how we work, how we engage, how we decide, how we lead, how we recognize, all of these things, how we hire. Where did you learn this? Like, where does it go trace back to?
It's interesting. I was reading Scaling Up, and then I read Traction, and it was talking about core values. And then for our forum, our EO forum, we had one of the coaches for Traction come in and talk to us, and it resonated with me. And I flew my leadership team into Atlanta, because we're a 100% virtual company. And so I flew everyone to my house, and we spent 2 days in my office, in my house. And we sat there and we talked about it, and what resonated not only with me, but with the team. And then when they left, I wasn't ready to publish them. It wasn't exactly right. So I spent the next 6 months every single week with one of my right hand. He and I would go back and forth. We'd debate and discuss. So to me, it was so important, and it was so personal. I wasn't willing to put it out until it felt right. So I wanted something that didn't need me at the center. People could make decisions based upon how I feel, my view of the world, and how I want to show up. And that's where we came up with our acronym, Preach.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. So you went through the process for 2 days with your team, and then you sat on it for 6 months. And then is that point when you guys said, I'm going to make it into an acronym?
Well, I came up with the words, and we actually had H at the end, was honesty in the beginning. And then it just didn't sit right, because I was like, you should be honest all the time. You and I had a conversation before we even started today, right? About this. And so I took that out. However, here's the interesting thing. I told this story about how we replaced honesty with have a ball all the time, HABAT. And I said this was right before I let someone go on a Friday. I called a team meeting, and I did a rant on our core values, and which I usually don't have meetings on Friday, but I knew I needed to. And I went through, we took this out because it's a given. We should always tell the truth. We have to rely, depend upon each other. And when I called the person and I had a meeting with them the following week, and I said, that core value that I talked about that we removed, he said, yes, I know I haven't been honest. And he knew it was coming. And he said, I'm sorry, I let you down and I let the team down. So it's interesting when you embody, to me, it's not fluff. It's how we live our every single day and how we make decisions. To me, it's very important. And I know what you're talking about, by the way. I have so many clients. I'll go in a room and I'll say, do you know your core values? Yes. Can you tell me what they are? Oh, let me go look them up. If you don't know them, if you can't say them, if they're not on your website, they don't exist. If your team can't say them. I have so many clients who come to us and say, their first meeting, I love your core values. It's front and center on our website.
Yeah. When you think about this and you've got 26 people, I would bet that you're at a point now where there's a little bit of self-correcting in the culture. People are holding people to a higher standard because everyone understands the values. And if someone's out of alignment, you don't have to do that. They're doing it for you.
They are having those tough conversations. You have to be, conflict is good. We talked about this on Friday at the learning day that we were at. Conflict is good. You need to be willing to have tough conversations. And I want everyone to be able to have the tough conversations without having to get me involved. I'm happy to get in if I have to. It's not how we choose to operate the business on a day-to-day basis. And it enables you to say, listen, this is our core value. Here's what I'm seeing. You have to learn how to have these kind of conversations.
Now, David just mentioned tough conversations, and I want to be very specific with you. There's too many people out there that are avoiding these conversations. In fact, there's an epidemic going on. People are afraid to engage. They're afraid to give feedback that might hurt someone's feelings. And I get it, but these tough conversations are necessary. It's part of leadership. You want to make sure that you're arming them with the tools to do that. You can do that by listening to the show, or we've got a book coming out soon that will help you. But the key is you want to make sure that you're having the coaching conversations with people that are avoiding and get them to move forward anyway. If that's all you do, then you've made a benefit just by listening to this show. Hopefully it helps. Back to David. Well, I could go on and on and on about tough conversations, given the fact that my next book is going to be about that. But
yes,
I want to redirect you for a little bit. These values, I know you mentioned how they're showing up in your weekly meetings. Is there any unusual way that which you are using the values as rituals to keep people aligned?
Unusual. To me, nothing that we do is unusual because we're doing it. When other people hear what we're doing, people are amazed that we spend, a half an hour to 40 minutes once a week with everyone's time. When you look at the value of time, that's a lot of money that you're investing on a weekly basis to recognize people's excellence, people going above and beyond, people who are embodying the core values and how they demonstrate them on a day-to-day basis. So to me, it's not unusual. Although I hear from a lot of people that they think that I'm crazy that I do, but it gets me excited to be part of the meetings. I get to hear how other people are living the values on a day-to-day basis. As far as anything besides the snap awards that we do, we literally go, everyone's sitting there and giving snaps when someone goes above and beyond. And when that's recognized, whether it's recognized internally from someone on my team, or if a client sends an email or a client says something on a call, we bring that up and recognize that in front of the entire company.
A lot of people don't like competitiveness in the workplace. I don't get it. Like, I feel like I thrive under pressure competitively. My wife does. I know my son does. I know not everyone does, but do you have a competitiveness around the values where people are getting these awards and getting the Zoom backgrounds and everything?
It's interesting you bring this up. We had a meeting. I had my quarterly planning meeting, and I had a couple people bring things up to me, bring up that some of the people on the team think they'll never get to win an award because they don't interact with so many people outside. And I said, tell me more about it. And it ended up being about a half an hour conversation. And I said, you know what? You may be right. So I said, what do you think about this? We create 3 different teams. We have the leadership team. Leadership team wins a lot of awards. So we're going to take the leadership team. They can compete amongst each other. And then we're going to take the operations team, which is a lot of back office. The operations team will have their own award, and we'll have the creative team, which is the creative, the social, the design, the copy team. So we've now taken what we're doing. We broke it up into 3 team awards because some people aren't that competitive. And what happens, it's interesting. They say when they're not as motivated when they don't think that they have a shot. So I said, how can we make it so that way everyone has an opportunity to truly win? And that's what we did.
Well, Dave, we've been talking about, how people align together around values. And I know that there's so many areas we could go, and I'm just going to leave it up to you. What do you think we haven't talked about yet as it relates to values and people being in alignment with those values that you feel like our audience needs to know?
Stand by them, live by them. If they're important enough to create, they're important enough to communicate. And when I have a conversation, I've even had tough conversations with clients that team members would bring up. This client doesn't align with our core values. They're not a core value fit. And I've actually let clients go and relationships that we had because people weren't a fit. And sometimes that's hard to do. And, it's interesting. I had someone that I had this tough conversation. I told them that love you as a client. I love the mission that you're on. And this is the feedback that I'm getting from my team. And we had this conversation. And I said, I'm happy to continue working with you, but in 90 days, either you're going to change or you're going to change. You're willing to start showing up this way, or you'll change who you're working with. And I'm happy to give you a bridge out. I'm not the kind of person who will ever leave you hanging. And at the end of 60 days, we had a conversation. We said, we'll meet in 30 days. We'll meet at 60 days. He said, I think you're right. I need to do something else. I said, great. How can I support you? And here's the funny thing. This person, I helped them grow from 140,000 a month to about 600,000 a month in 9 months. So they had a lot of growth. And I was always wondered what this person really thought about us in the conversation. And I used them as a reference recently. They wanted someone that I haven't talked to since they haven't been a customer, and someone that, either left me or I let go. And I said, sure, I'll give you this person. And he had nothing but positive things to say, and that we live by our values. He was actually so impressed with.
Now, David just talked about client alignment with values. And I really want to stress this. If your clients are out of alignment with taking action, for example, I think was one of David's values, then when you put something in front of them to approve, then they won't take action. And that'll be friction with you and your employees and getting work done and getting paid. All of that happens because you didn't have a way to filter out people who weren't in alignment. Now, this could be as simple as in the onboarding process, you to go over the values that you live by and say, we expect you to live by these values as well. Can you agree to that? Now, early in the relationship, when everything's really good, they'll agree to it. But when things get a little bit tough and there is that friction, and they're out of alignment with the values, you can remind them of these conversations and it will help you get things back on track. I've seen this work many, many times. Hopefully you'll only take on clients that really align with your values, but in case they don't, you can actually have the tough conversations that are necessary to either coach them up or coach them out. Back to David. Great story. We've been talking about the employees and whatnot, and I'm always curious, what is your leadership principle that really guides you to create the kind of company that you have today outside of values?
Good question. And no one's ever asked me. Service. I serve the people that work for my company. I appreciate everything that they are doing for us and for our clients. And I really look at, we're there to serve our clients and I'm there to serve my team, because without them, nothing gets done.
I used to ask a question all the time. I have no idea. And I get a nervous feeling every time I ask it, because I'm like, well, what if it doesn't line up? But Inc. 5,000 level companies think differently than faster growth companies. And one aspect of that is I ask the impossible question. As a leader of a fast growth company, what's more important, your customers or your employees? What would you say?
My team.
Why?
I just got the chills. Without my team, I can't service my clients. And if I don't have the right people on my team, I'm not going to attract the right clients. I'm not going to be able to build, grow, and scale.
There's no wrong answer there, but 93% of fast growth companies say it's their team, their employees. Slow growth companies will argue with me till the cows come home that it's all about customers. And I get it. It takes both, but we don't get there alone. You've probably worked solo before. I've worked solo for a few years. I'm so much better off with a team around me.
If you ever watch my TED talk, I talk about what my journey was and how I almost collapsed because of being without a team and thinking that I could do everything by myself.
Yeah. David, thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom.
That's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Gene.
Wow, what a great time. I love talking about values. I love the tips he shared and all the details. Hopefully you took notes, and I know I did. There were some new things in there I haven't seen done before, so I really hope that you are doing this. One I'll highlight is, and it went very fast, which was, have specific backgrounds for people to have the values and have awards that they've gotten so they're displayed with their team and they can show that and be proud of that. And it really does, I think, provide a little bit of competitiveness, and it's unique inside of our marketplace. So you can do that in a virtual world because that's where we're meeting in Zoom these days. So all that to be said, if I can help you with anything with your leadership development across your team, your managers becoming leaders, or you being the leader that your team deserves, all you have to do is reach out to me at genehammett.com. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, with courage. We'll see you next time.